Hello, Secret Keepers. We may present ourselves on the show as manly men who love crunchy mechanics and crunchier cereals, but don't be fooled. We also care about the arts and aesthetics. That is why today we are talking to a true artist of the makeup variety, Anna Fugate-Downs. She will be telling us all about laying down a solid foundation for your career, concealing your weaknesses in job interviews, blending in with your coworkers, and we might just make her blush along the way. That and so much more on the Megamoth Studios super secret podcast. Shh. You can tell people about this one. Welcome back to the show, Secret Keepers. I'm your host, a guyliner habit away from a life of polyamory, Joel Watts, joined as always by...
Danny, surprised that I'm still doing this podcast.
And today we are also joined by Anna Fugate-Downs. What is up, Anna?
Oh my gosh, I'm so pleased to be here. I'm so pleased to be here with y'all in particular. You're the first people I ever did a short film with ever. So really, you were my foray into makeup for film, and I'm so appreciative of that.
Oh, I now I'm appreciating that. I did not know, but we'll get into that here just in a second, talking about our old school film days and makeup for movies and for life. But today, because today we're going to talk to you about your experiences working as a professional makeup artist and, how you can express your artistic side, be it boy, girl, or anything in between with a little bit of makeup. But first, let's balance this out with a little bit of guy talk. How about that?
Love that.
Anna, how do you, and there is a right answer on this one, so I'm just going to lean in a little bit. How do you prepare your steaks?
Oh my gosh. Well, I myself personally have never cooked a steak. I did not really eat a steak until I was like 22 years old, and my husband prepared it for me. And he's a professional chef, or he has been a professional chef in the past. So,
Get him out here. He needs to tell us his steak preparations.
Oh my gosh, my cat. Okay, this is the cat that's yowling so much. This is Bunny. She's just
Bunny!
so upset that she's not getting all the attention. She brought her little string in here for me to play with her. And she will probably continue to yowl, but... So my favorite kind of steak nowadays is going to be a fairly small cut of beef. Like I really love a filet, or I'll take a sirloin or anything, but I only want like a small amount. And I want it to be like medium, like just towards medium well. And I really want there to be either like a compound butter or with chimichurri. Or something like I love. I love chimichurri. When I discovered chimichurri, it was like everything was over. I love a compound butter, like a chimichurri compound butter on like a small piece of like a really flavorful filet. That's like what I'm all about.
Yeah.
That sounds delicious. I mean, my mouth is watering. We're doing an early record again today, and I haven't had breakfast yet. So this was a mistake to be talking about steak so early. Well, I'll say wrong answer. Danny, do you want to take a chance?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Through the Heart of a Vampire, because I'm reading the show notes, and that's definitely how you spelled steak in the show notes. So.
Stop it.
I'm going to do the technically correct answer and answer the question you have here in the show notes. Through the Heart of a Vampire, followed by, keeping a tent secured to the ground.
Okay. One is way more practical than the other. And, if you have to drive it through the heart of a vampire, hopefully you just get some of that vampire meat afterwards, cook that up.
What kind of meat is that?
I don't know. It's soft, I would say, supple.
Why?
Cold, probably.
Cold, yeah. I'll go cold.
I would say it's a cold red center, as they say.
It definitely rare.
Cold.
You know how
center.
they will intentionally age beef like in very like meticulous ways at fancy restaurants? I'm imagining it's kind of like that. It's like, like a well preserved, like still edible but aged meat.
What does it taste like?
Vampire meats. Well, I mean, kind of, just like what human tastes, but aged, which I don't know yet.
Depending on how they died, maybe garlic.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Maybe very garlicky,
Yeah.
powdery, dusty old steak.
Sounds about right.
Yes. Well, the correct answer, in the words of Hank Hill, it's like we prepare our steaks medium. Was it medium rare? That is the way that I like my steak prepared, medium rare. And if somebody asks for it well done, well, we ask them firmly but politely to leave.
Yeah. Depending on what you said, I was going to maybe change my answer to I take my steaks high. I like high stakes or no stakes at all.
Oh. Yeah, the stakes are very high right now with the podcast being with the misspelling of the podcast leading to us discussing vampire kill strategies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can really tell that this is a consequential conversation. Like, this is going to affect some things. There are going to be some policy changes after this.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Probably a spell check. Danny might want to go over my my show notes and do a quick check for spelling. What was that butter you mentioned though? Oh yeah, go ahead.
It's a compound butter. Is like any kind of butter where you've kind of like softened it and then mixed in other things and then like re-hardened it so that the butter has the ability to kind of like take on the flavors of it. So like a chimichurri compound butter. Chimichurri has like a bunch of green, like it's like, I don't think there's cilantro in it, but there's
parsley.
Like it's parsley, garlic, I think some basil in there, maybe some pine nuts. Like it's a very herbaceous kind of mix that you put into a softened butter with like pepper and salt and everything. And then you re-harden the butter so that when the steaks come off the grill, you take a big scoop of like almost frozen butter and like pop it on there and let it like melt down through it. It's amazing.
It seems as though it's like, just putting all the seasoning all in one spot, and then all you have to do is just scoop and put it on top.
And it's in butter. Like why did lobster get the corner market on butter? Like dipping stuff like meat in butter? Like why did we only ever think of like lobster and crab being the options? Like you can dip any meat in butter. It doesn't matter.
That is accurate.
Nothing matters.
I did see a guy who like basically broiled his steak in butter. And I thought like it's like he took it to the extreme. Like, yes, I do agree. Putting some butter on top of steak or maybe dipping your steak in butter, delicious. But I mean, I think he took it a little to the extreme of cooking. Like he basically melted like 4 sticks of butter into a skillet and then put the steaks in the skillet, like drowning in butter.
Was that Guga Foods? Was that Guga Foods? Have you ever seen Guga? I don't know. Oh, he's always doing crazy stuff. He'll be like, "Oh, today we're cooking steaks and shoes." Like he'll put like a steak in a shoe and throw it on the grill. Or
I think this was just a clueless dad.
Okay.
Honestly,
it sounds like he went to the Paula Deen School of Culinary Arts. Like he was just like, when in doubt, put more butter.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. Well, he also cooked asparagus at the same time, and what he did was he took his stalk of asparagus and wrapped it around a stick of butter, and then foiled that and put it on the grill. So yeah, I don't think he's honestly, not too concerned. He's here for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah, we need 1 stick of butter per asparagus stalk. That's the ratio we're going for on this recipe.
Yeah. It's still a vegetable. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's just a happier vegetable now.
Yeah. We buttered it up. All right. Okay, Anna. Well, that was a pretty good culinary corner from you two. I'm the least likely to cook, I think, here on the podcast, so I don't have too much to contribute to that. I like how I like my steaks prepared? By somebody else.
I was going to say for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Ever dreamed of embarking on legendary quest, unlocking hidden secrets, and discovering untold riches? Dive into the world of X Seekers of Fortune. It's the game that's soon to be taking the internet by storm. Sign up today at xseekersoffortune.com and start your journey to greatness. Remember, fortune favors the bold. See you there. So we should probably get into the heart of the conversation, and that is, we just wanted to talk to somebody about makeup. I'm a very vain man. I want to look my best. Like I said, I just recently started using a face cream. And that's, really upped my game in terms of how my skin looks. But, we thought we could take it to the next level. Maybe some foundation, some eyeliner, things like that. So why don't we walk through, your life and career as a makeup artist, and then get down to the nitty gritty of what us boys can do to look all the prettier for the ladies or the men that they want to court.
I love that so much. Makeup is something absolutely that you can put on for other people. It's really something that you put on for yourself. Just like, when you're walking into, a big meeting or something, if you are going to dress really well and do your hair and it kind of feels like you're putting on your armor. Same thing with makeup, having the ability to choose, like if I have a pimple or under eye darkness or something, I can choose to put skin-colored paint on top of those things to make me feel more comfortable, more assertive. And it isn't necessarily something that we do, for others. It's something that you do for yourself so that you are allowed to take control over how you look and how you present yourself to the world. And a lot of the time, the point is for people not to know, or if they do know that you're wearing makeup, it's more of a stylistic choice. It's the same thing as like looking at somebody with a really cool pair of boots. You go, oh my gosh, that's such a cool choice you made in how you decided to present yourself to the world. So, and I do,
or a belt buckle or hat.
Or a belt buckle or a hat or any kind of, like the 15 pieces of flair, to pull in an Office Space reference. It's part of your 15 pieces of flair to be able to say, this is what I choose to spend my time on, in terms of time being sort of a limited resource, and our, to bring it into like D&D world, like our charisma role, right? Like giving ourselves the ability to modify our charisma, whether that is in how people perceive us or how the confidence that we feel and are able to kind of project to other people, I find to be incredibly powerful. And it's something that exists everywhere. Makeup is not a capsule. It's not a capsulated area of life. Every single man, athlete, president, musician, every single man that you have ever seen on television has a full face of makeup on. A full face of makeup on. So the idea that in real life that would be limited and translated only to half of the population is so crazy to me. Because it's just something that exists in the world everywhere. I saw an ad or a meme the other day that talked about like men being so insecure that a concealer had to be like a man's concealer had to be labeled as war paint.
What?
Because it was like, like people weren't okay with the idea of putting on concealer, but applying war paint made it more accessible.
Because it implies violence, right? Like that's what makes
it implies violence. It implies dominance. I think but it's the same idea. Like for me, it sort of is war paint. Like putting on makeup wakes me up more than coffee ever could. Right? Like it focuses me in. Especially like as a former theater kid or as like a kind of continual lifelong theater kid. It's about
we see
what
that
role, right? What role am I playing today, right? Which character am I today? And so I get to choose that. It's like going into a character customizer in a video game. I get to choose how intensely what kind of work I want to put into my character for that day, and what I want other people to perceive about me based on how I have painted my face that day. So I think it is very powerful. I think also everybody in the world should have the experience of walking into a room and knowing that they look good. Like my husband does drag, and I've been helping him a lot with doing makeup. And he's like, the feeling of walking into a room and because when he's in drag, he's got his heels on and he's 7 feet tall and he's got this huge wig and it's usually blonde. So when people are perceiving him for the first time in a room, what he sees is this. like people just kind of going up and up and up, and they all look so happy. Like everybody seeing him is shocked and pleased. And he is like, this is the best feeling in the world, is to walk in and know that your presence is elevating the experience for other people, and that like when they talk about that night, you're probably one of the things that they're going to talk about. And I'm like, everybody in the world should have that. Everybody in the world should be able to experience it. And it's so unfortunate to me that it's so often limited to women and female presenting people, that it's only acceptable to it's kind of like being a peacock, right? Like being able to put on your feathers and your plumage and walk out and have people not go like, oh my God, what are you doing? Should not be limited to only half of the population, and should not be limited based on gender roles. So I am very passionate about makeup and like availability of makeup for everybody. And just bringing awareness to the fact that it is everywhere. It is not a new thing for men to be wearing makeup. Men have worn makeup forever, like literally forever. Men have worn makeup. And it's only been recently that the idea of vanity is limited to women for some reason. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'll talk about that anytime.
You would think that the companies would be actually like, you know, like trying to put that in marketing. Maybe, I don't know what it is, but you know, you would think they would be like, no, guys can wear makeup too. It's like half the population can open up the floodgates to like sales. And I mean, like you said, every man who, you know, we are very much a camera centric, you know, culture now. Like, you know, we talk to each other through cameras, through screens. Every man has probably a pretty good excuse to like, you know, like brighten up their face. Like, you know, like I always say, like here doing this podcast, I have 4 different lights on to make my house or my like lighting setup look normal, you know, to look like what people would think of as just a normal lighting setup. And the same can be true for makeup or for, you know, treating yourself. And you know, hopefully based on where we go with this conversation, maybe I can incorporate some of that like in my pre-podcast ritual. But I will say, to give the folks at home an idea, like we're going to talk about this later, but to give you a little spoiler for what's coming up, we are going to do a little makeup tutorial on today's episode. So hopefully if you're a bro out there, you can get the guy liner on, you know, you'll feel confident doing it. But I went to H-E-B, shout out H-E-B on Riverside. I love me some H-E-B. That's that's my go-to. It's a nice big one, so they actually have a makeup department. And I had been with my ex-girlfriend down that makeup aisle before, but like just very much shadowing her and just, you know, waiting while she picked out, like looked through everything. I did not take in anything. And
you were a makeup aisle lurker.
Yes, exactly. Well,
yeah.
I know. I was just like sitting there, be like, Joe, I'm with her. You know, please don't arrest me. Don't shoot me out. But today I went in with the intention of actually getting things that you sent me on a list. And I want to say it was like three things here, and they were all fairly simple. And I was on that aisle drowning. I had no idea what I was doing. Like just flailing. I felt like this an emotion I haven't felt for a long time, which is I have no idea what I'm looking for. Mommy, please help me. And
I totally feel that, because I felt it exactly the same hooking up OBS and everything. I was like, there are far too many cables and far too many screens and far too many buttons, and I am very alarmed at the moment. But you did it. You did it.
Yeah, exactly. With the help of
unlike
Maricela,
the steak question, there's no wrong answer, Joel.
Yeah. No wrong answer, Joel.
No wrong answer. No, there's only one right answer in the steak question. That's the difference. Anyways, but Maricela, H-E-B employee, she wandered by, and I was like, please help me. And she walked me through, you know, finding the 3 things that you asked me to get, and I was very grateful for that. But yeah, no, it's like kind of like you have to go and find those new frontiers for your life. And for guys, you know, this could be a great time to just like expand your mind, you know, get you thinking differently, help your mind work, because, you know, heaven forbid the dementia settles in, the Alzheimer's, you know, it's coming for all of us, and you got to fight it off with new experiences. And why not make up that new experience?
What did Maricela say to you?
Well, I stopped her. She was wearing H-E-B clothes. I explained enough. I was like, I'm doing a show, and they asked me to pick up some of these things. I don't know what I'm looking for. And she said she knew enough to help me. I don't think she wasn't like a makeup expert, but she was a lady, and I think she had experience. She had seen these things before, and so she just sort of like, you know, looked and found the basic things that were on the shelf. So yeah, nothing.
She had like a +1 proficiency bonus, and you had like a -3 probably.
Yeah, you know, walking in there and with combine that with my negative intelligence stat. Oof, it was a bad. Oof. So. Well, we're talking gaming right now, or we're kind of referring to D&D, so we might as well ask. This is primarily a gaming show, so to get our audience familiar with you and endear you to our audience, I always like to start out with your gaming origin story. So, Anna, do you come from a gaming family?
Not particularly, other than the fact that my brother is just one of the best DMs I've ever. He is so good. He's been playing for so long, and I loved being involved in like writing out the character sheets because I had like the best handwriting. So I was very into observing D&D. I also specifically wanted to bring on for y'all, for your viewing pleasure, Matt's binder of Magic cards. I have my
Now that's your husband, is that right? Or no, that's your brother?
No, this is my brother. This is so old. I have no idea why I have this. Other than I steal everything from my brother and will continue to do so for the rest of my life.
What is in there?
It's old. Oh, it's old,
Ooh,
y'all.
What if she flashes us like something
I know. I want to see what's in there.
She is a classic. And then so I've got that. I've got a whole binder full of what he considered his most, precious cards, and then I've got a whole stack of other super classics.
Oh yeah. That's the nostalgia hitting me right there.
Well, I really wanted to talk about this, knowing that Magic the Gathering is such like a fundamental part of y'all's origin story and X Seekers of Fortune. That when I really thought about it, Magic the Gathering and the art on Magic the Gathering, which I know is a very like beloved part of it, was sort of one of my first introductions to character design, which when it comes down to it, I consider myself to be more of a character designer. And when it's if you're coming down to like a role on set, I've started to sort of like create my own title, which is hair, makeup, and effects designer. I'm not just a makeup artist. I'm not just a hairstylist. I'm not just an effects artist. I love to do all of it, and I love to be involved in every step of the process, from concepting and like reading a script, doing a breakdown, figuring out the elements that have to be there based on what we see in the script, and then kind of extrapolating from there all of the different details of like, well, where is this character from, and who, and where are they going, and what about the makeup can we utilize in order to aid in the storytelling, right? And so for me, Magic the Gathering was one of the first ones where I was seeing constant new design influences based solely on what was the picture on the card, because like when you're like, when you're in middle school and you're reading Lord of the Rings, you have the imagery in your head, but at that point the movies don't exist. Like the only thing that exists is the cartoons. So getting an idea, like there's this one right here, this Gaze of Pain. I very specifically remember this card. This girl. Oh gosh, wow. I'm like, my freaking phone. I'm so sorry. My phone.
It's all right. No, it was looking good there. Feel free. I mean, if you could slide the card out of the binder and maybe just hold up the card by itself, that might work best. If it's not like sticky with age.
So this.
Yeah.
Here's Gaze of Pain.
Ooh,
yeah, that's a great design.
It's so beautiful, and there's so much about this. Like if I saw this character in a movie, the idea of like, what did this to her? Right? Like like, are these slits punitive? Are they something that was done as punishment? Are they something that she did to herself to invoke the idea of power? Are they scratch marks from her own fingernails? Were they sliced with a razor of some kind in like a ceremonial or ritualistic way? You know, why didn't it blind her? You know, like why does she still have regular pupils? Why aren't her eyes damaged? Like those are all things that really kind of get my gears going in terms of when I start to think about a character design. So I was when I started thinking about it, when people talk about like origin stories and like what inspired you to become who you are today, things like magic are one of the huge elements that I think, unless you were really putting thought into like, well, why am I the way that I am? I never would have associated the fact that this was one of my first forays into really digging into the origin of a character based solely on what I could see. But you know, before like in a movie, before a character ever opens their mouth, My job is to tell you who they are based solely on hair and makeup and how they present themselves. So it's my job is what can we tell about this person before they have ever interacted with another person. And magic is a great example of that. Like art is a great example.
Well, like, especially in the pre-internet age, Magic the Gathering was an amazing way for you to get a whole bunch of artwork in your life for relatively cheap. I mean, you know, we can argue about it, but that 10-cent bin of commons, you know, the artwork on the commons can be just as good as the artwork on the rares and just as interesting. I had one thought about that character that you showed off, and that was the character design would have been great if Heath Ledger's Joker had a Harley Quinn. I would want her to have those slits on her.
That's amazing.
I was thinking to match his scars. Was giving Harley Quinn before she had her coffee kind of vibes, you know?
Yeah. Or Harley Quinn in the depth when she's stopped caring about the beauty makeup aspect of it, when she's gotten so unhinged that she's like, I'm just going to make these permanent. Yeah, it's like you want to know how I got these scars? Like, I got them in Arkham or whatever after I'd lost all hope and I didn't have eyeliner, and this is the next best option, you know?
Yeah. It's almost like the next level of people tattooing freckles on themselves or beauty marks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you know, it would tell you a lot about the character if you saw somebody who had scarred themselves to have that kind of shape, or scarred and tattooed possibly. So,
well, and that's a valid form of self-decoration, like scarification and using scars and specifically place scars is something that multiple cultures have used for, you know, years and years and years and years. We don't necessarily get exposed to it as often when you're thinking in a very like Eurocentric kind of realm of design. But that is a very, very valid form of beautification, you know, that to some cultures might seem really extreme. But I mean, nowadays women get eyeliner tattooed on their eyelids, you know, like they literally have like a needle going next to their eyelids in the name of beauty. And that's no less horrifying, you know, like when you really think about it, that's no less horrifying than intentionally scarring yourself.
What is it they say? Beauty is pain.
Beauty is pain. Yeah, it doesn't have to be. Beauty is effort. Let's just say that beauty is effort. You have to put effort into it, and sometimes that effort is internal, right? It's you going like, I can find the beauty in myself. And it's more of like a spiritual kind of aspect, but physical, visual beauty is an effort.
Yeah. I mean, I could go so many different ways with like everything you just said there. But I guess I want to center around let's get back to the origin story aspect, because your origin story, like, perfectly branched off into like the other side. I was going to say we're going to have the gaming origin story and the makeup origin story, but it seems as though gaming inspired the makeup, or like your interaction with like gaming culture, Magic the Gathering. So like, you know, so when did you first start utilizing makeup like independently? I'm sure like you probably had some makeup experiences that were like, you know, very much like done to you by like elders, but when did you start taking agency in your makeup, and what did you first start doing with makeup? Like, how did you first experiment?
That is a great question. I very first started really because of theater. When you're a theater kid and you're in, you know, middle school or whatever, you are sort of expected, like, you know, for dance recitals or whatever, to have a black eyeliner and a red lipstick, and those are things that you, as you know, your independent family, are very much expected to provide and also know how to use. Also, it's a very communal learning, especially when you're in middle school, high school, and you're getting ready with people like backstage at a show or for like a drill team performance or whatever. It's very communal, so you're learning from what you're seeing other people do. And it's kind of like girls getting ready for the prom. Like, oh my gosh, like, you try my lipstick, and oh my gosh, you should put rhinestones in your hair, or whatever. You learn the possibilities based on other people's experiences. And I really, like, so theater really got me into it. Then kind of the big shifting point was my mom took voice lessons from this woman that sold Mary Kay makeup. And for, a birthday or something like that, Mom was just like, here you go, like go. It was almost like she was paying her friend to babysit us for the day, practically. But part of it was like, you are going to get this like set of makeup. So I had this really beautiful palette. I got to choose all these colors. It was this really cool, like the kit. So like a regular compact, that you see like women do with the, powder puff or whatever. It was like a compact, but it was the size of a laptop computer. And when you opened it, it could fit like 10 different eyeshadows, 2 different blushes, 2 different lipsticks, 3 different eyeliners. And it had a big mirror in it. And I remember just getting my hands on like that piece of kit and going like, this is cool. Like the fact that they make like a custom made caboodle just for carrying makeup is so cool to me. And I very quickly became like the girl that just had the most makeup. So when it came time for high school and friends going to prom and whatever else, I was sort of the one that just had like the most available colors. And I've always loved doing it. I've always loved doing hair, always loved doing makeup. I think that was a big part of why I was a theater kid, was just the ability to take on these characters. And then realizing that I could just do that in my everyday life, like I can choose what character I'm going to be and put that makeup on my face, made it where it was more accessible in terms of just like a daily practice, like a daily self-care practice. So after that was all kind of high school, middle school, high school era, got into college and I was focusing in acting at UT. And at UT, we had to do these things in the theater department called production labs, where you were basically in like prop shop, scene shop, costume shop. And I had gotten really close through my acting roles to the wig making teacher, to the wig making professor. And so when it came time for my production labs, I was basically like, can I just be with you? Like, I already love doing hair, and like she'd made a couple of custom wigs for me for different roles I'd had. And I just found the whole process super fascinating. And really, once I went out, like I had never gone to an audition in college where I didn't get cast as something. And the first time I went out to audition for a television pilot and I didn't even get a call back, it crushed me to the point where I was like, I am not cut out for a rejection-laden industry. And I don't like not being able to have a picture of what I can do. Like when I have an acting resume, it's like, well, look at all these roles I did. I promised I'm really good. Versus being able to do hair, being able to do makeup and go, I did this. Like this picture is an exact representation of my skill and my level. And being able to accumulate that over time was so appealing to me. And so I switched to doing technical theater. I actually got my degree in wig making and makeup design from UT, and then went to a special effects or a film makeup school in Vancouver called the Vancouver Film School in the makeup design program there. And while I was there, I got my first taste of working in film. I got to work on Supernatural and a show called V, where it was a very short-lived show called starring Morena Baccarin from Firefly. And so I got to work on a couple of those things and with the same special effects company that did X-Files. So it was like, just this huge introduction into like, this is what I'm interested in doing. And look at these 40 people who are employed full time doing just this for one small aspect of this entire show that's being put together. So really, my origin story is that I just liked being in the building. I loved being in theater. I loved being in the building. I loved contributing my skills towards the overall storytelling arc. And I've just kind of kept going on that. I love empowering people through makeup and just kind of like adding to my skill tree sort of in makeup. So I'm always wanting to like learn another thing or like get a new material. And I feel like that's driven a lot of like the sort of spider webbing branch of my career.
Oh, go ahead, Danny.
Yeah. So one question I had for you was, when you're working on a film and you're working with actors and you're working with directors, how is that collaboration different? So how are you collaborating with the storytellers and telling the stories, and then collaborating with the actors who are going to be portraying this character and bringing them to life? You know, how do those conversations work between the three parties? Are you all having them together? Are you having different conversations with the storytellers than you are with the people portraying the story? How does that all play out?
It does start with some kind of script or what they call a treatment, where there are sort of basic parameters that need to be hit for the story or the piece of media to be told. So I will go through that script, treatment, whatever, kind of take notes and mark what it is that seems like it's going to be kind of relevant to my department, which is hair, makeup, and effects. And then I will have the initial conversation with a producer or a director about, here are the things that you need to keep in mind, even getting down to as finicky of a detail as here's how long this is going to take, right? Like if you want it to look this way, here's how long that's going to take on the day. Here's how long it's going to take to get them out of it if we need them to be in multiple states throughout the day. So those are all like kind of the planning, nitty gritty, nuts and bolts kinds of stuff. And then I'll have a conversation, like I'll drop some designs, get approval from I'll put together mood boards or collages or something like that. Get approval, make sure that like the directors, designers, everybody that's collaborating on the visuals, that we all have sort of like a shared visual vocabulary of like, what does this mean? When we read this in the script, what does that mean visually? And then I will approach the portrayer, the actor, the performer, and really specifically talk to them about allergies, like things that they are sensitive to, things that they aren't capable, like with eyeliner, say, like which we're going to be playing with in a little bit. If you aren't used to having something near your eyes, like a little hard stick near your eyes, it can be really alarming. Having just pressure placed in an area where you're not used to pressure being can really affect people. So if we have a very strong idea about what we want this to look like, and somebody goes, I have the most sensitive eyes in the world, they water terribly, I'm going to go, okay, maybe we're not going to do like a super smoky eye, right? Because it's going to be hell to maintain throughout the day. It's going to make you uncomfortable. So then we have to go back to the drawing board and go, okay, what else can we do to effectively communicate visually what we need to about this character, but also work within the parameters and the limitations of like what the performer is capable of, how much time we have, how much money we have, how many times we need to repeat it, right? Like, is this like a one-time thing where we can spend 3 or 4 hours doing it because we don't have to repeat it every day? Or is this something that this needs to be like part of the lickety-split checklist bullet point version where I need them in and out of the chair in 10 minutes? So there's a lot of logistics that go into it besides even the design elements. So it is very collaborative. It's collaborative and it's never set in stone until it is recorded. And like, it is never set in stone. We are always adapting. Always, always.
That's the key. That's such a key to art. There's so much great things I heard in there, and so many things. Like I said, every time you speak, I have like 15 questions or follow-up comments. But I think my top level comments are, this is a great learning moment for anybody who's interested in getting into the arts. Everybody thinks that they want to go in and be, a lot of people, I mean, Danny and I are guilty of this too, want to go in and become like writers and directors, and they want to try to take those slots, which are very coveted. But if you actually want to work in the film business, the theater business, and you want it to be a job, you want to get one of those technical gigs, because those people actually work. They work consistently. They get paid, unlike writers and directors who, when they get paid a lot, but there's a long time in, building up to the point of getting paid. And I'm sure, like, if that is really your passion and what you're heading towards, getting in your foot into seeing how a set runs is only going to help you rise to the rank of, or rise up and be ready to be a director or a writer when it comes time. And the other thing that I just love is just the idea of like, there's not one right answer for a question. There's multiple options, and setting, being dedicated or confident in the option you take is really strong. But you have no idea if somebody is allergic to, I don't know, to, like, you have a scene where somebody needs to vomit and they're allergic to oatmeal, and that was what you prepared to be the vomit on set. You're going, you have to be adjustable. You have to roll with the punches. You have to check these things. These are things you wouldn't think to check beforehand. So I just love that, how adaptable and malleable your creativity is. I think so many people are like, no, it has to be this way. And it's like, if you're really creative, no, it can be 5 different ways. You choose one at the end of the day. But, if that one doesn't work out, you have something in your back pocket to change to.
Absolutely.
I really liked also the advice that you gave about, I don't know that you presented it as advice, but I think it's great advice, which is, if you want to get hired, sometimes it's really, really helpful to have tangible evidence of your skill. You mentioned with acting, it was kind of like, you're going to have to take my word for it. I'm a good actor, versus, hey, look at my portfolio. Look at these looks that I've created. Look at these characters I've developed. And that's something, honestly, that resonates a lot, because Joel and I, when we made the transition from trying to be writers and directors and filmmakers to being game designers, part of what motivated us in doing that is, it's so hard to raise money for a film that people don't know is going to turn out, versus being able to have a game that people can play and they know they're having fun. So it's just so much easier to market your efforts and your results when you have something tangible you can put in front of people, and they know you can deliver before they ever give you $1.
I will also say, very smart legwork in terms of being able to make money, make capital, create characters, create storylines. Dungeons and Dragons is a full-blown movie now, entirely based on characters that have already existed. And, like the Harpers, say, is like, when you look through the Dungeon Master's Guide, that is one of the factions that is there. The actual, I'm so sorry. I did not mute I don't know why I did not mute my phone, and now it just keeps going off. So I'm so sorry to all the viewers at home.
See, I thought for a second, and this is something we would recommend, she's using her phone as a webcam, and it's a much better quality than the webcam on her laptop. But
yes.
I would recommend next time you upgrade your phone, keep your old phone if you can, and use that, like your old phone camera.
Well, and I do actually have an old phone. It's just not charged. So I thought about that, and I was like, dang it, I should get that. And then I don't even know if it has enough space on it to get the new app on it and everything. But this works really well.
No, I'm saying, just letting the audience, just a pro tip for the audience, your last generation phone, there's a lot of uses you can get out of it if you set it up for like webcam and things like that.
100%. Or like as a mic, getting yourself like better audio, just using a mic and being able to just like, do a clap sync or something. I've definitely done that before for different elements.
For sure.
But yeah, I was saying, Dungeons and Dragons and being like, what is so great about what y'all are doing with X Seekers of Fortune is that you are creating characters and elements where people are allowed to tell their own stories. And the more personally invested that people feel in a collaborative thing like gameplay, the more likely they are that like the future like filmmakers or investors or designers or whoever are going to want to get involved and go, no, we need to tell this story. Like we need to take all of these different elements and weave them together into a story. I don't know this for a fact, but I very firmly believe one of my favorite authors is Brandon Sanderson. He is beyond J.R.R. Tolkien, like so far beyond him. And I love me some Hobbit. I had a Lord of the Rings wedding. Like I am very into it. It was very formative for me. But I firmly believe that Brandon Sanderson rolls character sheets for his characters. I firmly believe that, based on the way that everything works out. And the failures, like the fact that so many plans that they work toward throughout an entire story arc will fail, feels to me like a nat one. Like they just like rolled a nat one, like, so he's like, this is what my character wants to do now. He rolled a nat one. What does that mean for the rest of the story?
Interesting.
I believe, I have no confirmation of that. I haven't even looked it up, but reading all of his stories, they're so varied and things happen so wildly that I don't feel like it could be a formulaic thing where he's just going, well, this is what I've seen before and this is what worked out. And I feel like that's the easiest way to keep track of like, what are all these people's motivations? What are their abilities? So yeah, I feel like it's really smart. And the fact that y'all are already filmmakers, I feel like it's going to make you better game makers.
I think it's definitely helped. I mean, have you seen any of the art for the game?
Yes, gorgeous.
Okay,
gorgeous.
Cool. Yeah,
gorgeous.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think I do hope that we're doing a great job, and it'd be interesting to hear your take on the characters, what you would take from them based on how we present them on the artwork. Maybe sometime in the near future. But yeah, no, you mentioned D&D, you mentioned Brandon Sanderson, and that's actually a really great point. I think more writers or more storytellers should embrace characters failing. It is the best thing for a story when characters actually fail at what they're doing. But tell us a little bit about, it seems like D&D might be your jam. Tell us about your experience playing D&D and like the kind of characters you like to play and how you go about designing them.
I love D&D so much. I've been very intimidated. I'm actually just getting ready to DM my first, just a one shot, really.
Ooh.
I hate rules.
Oh.
I hate them. I'm not good at them. I don't like learning them. I don't like following them, for sure. I am just not a fan. I'm not a fan of rules, and it's been something that's been so terrifying to me as a DM, because I watch people like Dimension 20, Brennan Lee Mulligan, and like watching all of their abilities and just how fast they are. And I get terrified about the idea of, I get like stage fright basically at the idea of sitting down with a group of people who are expecting me to guide them, and not being an expert in that subject really terrifies me and makes me go, oh my God, they're going to be so bored. They're going to like be waiting around. They're going to be like suffering through it. And of course, the more I've learned about it and the more I've kind of dedicated myself to sitting down, reading rules, understanding what gameplay should be like, the more I felt like I can get the right group of people who understand that I am going to have to stop and look things up. I don't have to be like my brother, right? Like my brother is such a great DM, and he was actually the first during 2020. We went through our first full campaign of D&D, all virtual, of course, and it was a homebrew campaign of his own creation called World War II Mages, and so we were all humans. And we had graduated from basically like a military Hogwarts, like an American military Hogwarts. And we were the first group of graduates getting sent to the front lines. And we landed in France and had to travel across to Poland to save some Jewish researchers who had a kernel of information that could help end the war. And that was so cool. And us all being humans was a big part of it too. Like the fact that there was like a limitation to what the party could and couldn't do, based on the fact that we were all humans. So I find that very, very, I just loved that whole process. I loved the silliness. I loved being able to, I mean, like probably one of the biggest gold stars I've ever gotten was when I said something that made my brother laugh so hard and he went, point of inspiration. Like that is so funny that you get a point of inspiration for it. And so it's like,
reward your players.
I'm going to chase that feeling. Like I'm going to chase that feeling. So I do. Heroin. I love D&D. I am just getting into it. And I'm getting to the point now where I'm also realizing, like a favorite movie, I can get really, really well versed in one shot and just run it a few times with a few different people who want to try. And each time I'm going to get better. Each time I'm going to be able to have more knowledge of the mechanics. Like that's all cumulative. And I sometimes forget that. Like a lot of the times I feel like when I'm starting on something, I need to be an expert in it before I even try. And I've begun to realize the flaw in that thinking. So, I do love D&D. I love going through and like, as I read books, I'll like on the bottoms of the pages, sometimes I'll like write out what I think that character's stats would be,
I love that.
Based on like the things that I've perceived from reading. And I feel like you could do that with people too, right? I feel like it gives you more empathy for the way that people behave when you're like, well, I don't get it. And you go, he's got a really low intelligence modifier. And you're like, oh no. Okay. I get it. Like, I get it. We all know people like that. Oh no, we weren't
see his
talking
modifier.
about you,
No, okay.
but yeah, I do. I love the concept of D&D. I love high fantasy, grand fantasy. It's the realm in which I can most easily imagine like flexing all of the skills that I have, right? Like, fake orc ears and dentures and contact lenses and blood and spells and everything. Like, I can imagine so many elements where I could kind of force my own skill set into that realm and help to kind of like collaborate and tell the story.
Okay.
Awesome.
This feels like we're having the pre-podcast for 5 other episodes of the podcast. So
yeah, exactly.
That. Okay, so, I wish I had known about the writing character stats in books. I would have had you share some of that with us. I don't want you leaving and going and finding books if it takes too long.
I literally have a book sitting on my coffee table right now that I can show you. It's one of my favorite books of all time.
Yeah, why don't you grab that?
Okay, yeah. 1 second. I'll be right back. So my book that I grabbed is one of my favorites of all time. It's Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. It's a meaty boy. Similar to Brandon Sanderson in that way. But this is an amazing book. It is all about the building of a cathedral. And the fact that when you build a cathedral, you see a cathedral and you go, oh my gosh, that thing must have been there for thousands of years or whatever.
Yeah.
And it probably took the people who started building it. The people who started building it probably were not alive by the time it was being finished. So it's the story of all of the different elements through the generations, seeing the initial builders pass away, the stories of the Lord who got jilted by the young, countess, and how that shaped their whole lives and everything. But it's just an amazing book. You learn so much. Like, literally, I feel like I felt a million times smarter after I read this book, because it just talks about even just architecture, right? Like how architecture works. And one of the first main characters is Tom Builder. He's a mason, and I was just reading through it, and I was like, oh gosh, Tom, preparing to be a DM and everything. I was like, Tom is really wise, because when he looks around in a certain city, he's like, I can tell the city is prosperous because everybody needs to buy cooking pots and knives, but not everybody needs to buy embroidered shawls or decorative belt buckles. So when he's walking around in a town, he's really wise in the sense that his previous experiences let him know before he talks to anybody whether or not the town is prosperous. But his intelligence isn't great because he is a mason from the 1100s. He can't really write his name. He can't read. It's really limited. But the fact, that doesn't mean that he's not smart, right? He's got all this experiential wisdom. And so, and he's really charismatic. So I gave him strength +3 because he's a mason. Constitution +1 because he's been a mason for so long that he actually has a bunch of stone dust in his lungs, so he can't run very far without getting winded. Dexterity, I gave him a +8 to dexterity because he's very good at carving fine lines. At one point he has to climb up scaffolding to save this person, so his agility and acrobatics are really good. Intelligence, I gave him a 0. I was just like, he's about as smart as the average person. Wisdom +2 because he's good at observational, experiential kind of smarts. And then charisma +3 because at one point he talks about when the Lord arrives to a job site, you want them to be glad that Tom Builder is in charge. And I take that onto set with me. When a producer or an executive producer or the star shows up and I get to show them what we've made, I want them to be so happy that I'm in charge of the department. Simply because I have the charisma, I'm showing that I'm prepared and that I have a lot of plates spinning, but I'm able to kind of tread and keep my head above water. So that's an example. That's an example of how I've been preparing for D&D in my everyday life. But it's a milestone for me. Running this one shot is literally a 35-year long goal of mine. Okay. And gaming is huge. It's the metrics by which we can like measure our life, you know?
I love that.
Yeah, no. And I think what you said about a one shot, it's like you create a really good one shot. You can run it with, 4, 5, 6 different parties of people and get different results each time. And, it's almost like an escape room. A one shot is kind of like an escape room.
Totally.
You set up the parameters and then you just drop different people into it and they get to kind of like succeed, fail, break the system. Do it
which I'm terrified about.
As you expected. Oh yeah, you got to be ready for people to
I've already been like, you all better be nice to me. I'm like, do not, especially in the first ones, like, don't come up in here and be like, I turn into a flaming eagle and I crash through the side of the palace. I'm like, don't do that to me. Just everybody play nice, please, for this first one. Please play nice.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you get that up and running, I would love to give it a shot sometime if you're ever, able and willing to guide us through it.
Thanks, guys.
So, kind of like on off the record things, something that I like based on everything you said so far, something I would love to see and like in your content, if you had the extra money for this, taking characters who haven't been adapted for screen and from books that you're reading, and then you doing the adaptation and creating the visual language. Is that something you've done before? Do you have designs drawn out for characters?
If I have one specific goal in my life, oh my God, I could like literally tear up thinking about this. But if I don't get to be involved in the screen adaptation of any of Brandon Sanderson's things, it will be a life not fully lived. I have so many ideas about the way things look. And so, yes, absolutely. I think very visually when it comes to reading and absorbing characters. I just love, there's a comment that I've heard from a lot of female readers when they read something like Name of the Wind, where one of them goes, I don't know what anybody's wearing, I don't know what anybody's wearing. I don't know what anybody looks like. And Brandon Sanderson is so good at telling you what people look like in a very specific way. And he's clearly thought about like all the different cultures that are represented, like all of these fictional cultures, and painting the picture for you, right? But in a way that's still very interpretable. So I've absolutely thought about that, about being a sort of brand san influencer, like cosplay influencer, because I just want to make the case to him that it's like, please let me be involved in making this happen, in like painting the visual vocabulary of these characters in broader media, than just like words on the page.
Obviously, costumes can be probably pretty expensive to get, but I'm sure you could probably adapt one or two characters like very thoroughly and present them online. I'm sure that would be you throwing your hat into the ring for when it happens, because this guy's got to have some of his work adapted soon. I haven't read any of his things, and I know him. He's like becoming a household name.
He's amazing. I cannot wait. If I don't, I've already thought about it, and before I was ever like, oh my God, this is what I want to do, and like this is such a dream for me. I can't wait to be insufferable about whatever adaptation is made. I cannot wait to be like, well, that's not how it was done in the books and the proper. Like I cannot, like, I feel like a Brandon Sanderson scholar, like the way that people feel like Tolkien scholars, where it's like when people, like I listen to his audiobooks a lot. And people are like, well, how do you even listen to them? They're like 60 hours long or something. I'm like, I've listened to every single one of his books, his 60-hour-long books, 4 or 5 times. My goodness. I have listened to them a lot, and I love them, and they are like a comfort item for me. But definitely aspirational, too. Definitely aspirational.
Okay. Danny, was there any other questions you wanted? Well, I have a feeling we'll still be able to have the conversation going into the something random this week. This is going to be kind of a different something random, but was there anything else on your mind before we start whipping out the makeup and she starts giving me some instructions?
Yeah, I think that there's just so much to talk about with Anna that we're going to have her back on, do another episode. The one thing I wanted to just touch on, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, just this idea that, we all started our creative journeys as professionals in the late 20s, 20-aughts, early 2010s, and social media, YouTube, it really wasn't as big as it is now, obviously. And so, at the beginning of our careers, we were kind of grinding away. You mentioned working on our short film early on. And
Tonight He Comes. THC.
And I just kind of wanted to get your perspective on how do you feel like the development of social media and just technology in general has affected your trajectory as an artist and a creative professional?
I mean, massively. Yeah, massively. I think, it's made the whole process a lot more democratic, I would say, in terms of, it's not like back in the golden age of Hollywood. It was very like studio based. Like if you got a contract with a studio, then you were the new it girl of whatever. And now with YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, it means that you, based on your own appeal and not waiting for the permission of any other higher authority, can make your mark on the world and can contribute to sound really pretentious, like the cultural zeitgeist, right? Like literally like a TikTok meme or like an audio can change the way that people speak to one another, Absolutely. And like being able to reference those things. And for me in particular, beyond like the kind of broader scope, I think for a long time people consider it, and still to this day, many people consider it to be a very frivolous thing, totally ignoring the fact that millions and billions of dollars are spent. People are taking funding from their commercial television budgets to broadcast on NBC or CBS and taking that money and breaking it up into 1,000 pieces and sending out to 1,000 influencers and getting so much more reach than they ever would have if they had spent that money on a television commercial. So it has made the whole process much more democratic. And then for me personally, in terms of the people I work with, my biggest and best accomplishments in the makeup design sphere have been all for Twitch streamers and YouTubers, people who are content creators who are used to doing everything on their own and are so pleased to have somebody else thinking about one element, taking one element off of their plate, knowing that that person will be able to yield a better result than they ever could have on their own, right? And I think that makes them, one, like a lot more fun to work with. They're not very entitled. They're not like, well, obviously you're going to do that. It's your job. They're very, very pleased about what it is that you can contribute. But also they're more willing to take risks. They're more willing to do crazy ideas and have crazy ideas. And, to your point earlier a little bit, Joel, you were saying like, being able to adapt and everything. My thing that I love being able to bust out in terms of like a piece of advice is that you don't ever fully say no to them. You go, here's why that's not possible, but here's what is possible, right? Yeah. Like, here's what, like I'm not going to say no. And like, how dare you even ask for me to adapt that way? I'm going to say, okay, here's what we can do to accomplish some version of that, even if it's not ideal to what we could do if we had more time, more money, more preparation. So I do feel like I've gotten to exercise those muscles a lot. I worked a lot with Rooster Teeth for years and years. I've worked with a bunch of different cosplayers like Meg Turney and Jessica Negri and Daniel Nicola. And then I work a lot with Markiplier, who's one of the bigger gaming YouTubers. And we've created some really beautiful things together just because they had these wild ideas and went, we trust you to come up with how we're going to do this, right? Yeah. So I think it's been awesome. It's made me feel a lot more legitimate in terms of it being a very legitimate career. I was very lucky in the sense that my parents were like, you go for it, honey. Like, do whatever makes you happy. They're very, very supportive of me pursuing this as a career. But the further I've gone into it, the more I've realized that like the collaboration and the fact that I got to practice and cut my teeth in a lower stakes situation, like just like, oh, this is just for a funny YouTube video, actually set me up better to be able to adapt and contribute to these bigger, higher stakes projects. Because I went, oh, you want for Rooster Teeth at one point, they were like, we need a chest burster from Aliens and we need it to be able to be tiny. We need you to puppet it and we need you to make it to where it can have a tiny little hobo rucksack like over its back and like walk away, and it's just like wild stuff like that where I'm like, okay, like we're gonna figure out how to do that, but it's funny. It's for a YouTube video, and if it looks campy and terrible, then fine, it adds to the overall funny vibe. But if it turns out awesome, people are like, wow, the production value is really good on this, So yeah, I think it's affected it hugely. I think social media has been huge in terms of my personal trajectory, but then also just the legitimacy of like doing makeup is not a frivolous pursuit. People are willing to spend their time and money to look and feel better, especially on camera. So being able to contribute to somebody's public persona as a makeup artist and hairstylist is an amazing asset to have in terms of just like longevity of career.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. Yeah, there's something that you said earlier. Should we do some
makeup?
We should do some makeup. I did want to say though,
Joel, what were you saying?
I just wanted to say there was something that you said that I thought really resonated, like with my view of production, and it's you call yourself part of the special effects team in a way. And I think like there's two things that everybody on set should consider themselves part of. That everybody on set is a storyteller, and everybody on set is a special effects person. Like I think lighting is the first special effect of cinema. You know, that's like, you know, a good lighting, good makeup. These all tell the story. These are all special effects. You know, even if it's very subtle, it still tells the story. And I think everybody should have that mentality because that will lead to the best production and everybody kind of getting a little piece of the pie and it being everybody's movie, if you will. Let me hear.
Yeah, go ahead and start.
I might have to do
all of the
some
stuff
adjusting. I might have to do some adjusting from my normal setup. I've been very fidgety with my microphone
mirror
today.
Like, do you have like a mirror that you can like hold up kind of closer to your face so you don't have to do everything like in the camera?
I don't I don't know. I let me think about that. I don't think so, but I could go check my room.
Even if you do have your phone, even using like your selfie cam on your phone can work out really well in terms of using a mirror. Amazing. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and to your point, while you're unwrapping stuff, Joel, to your point of like everybody contributes to the story. You said something earlier about like if you want to be a writer, if you want to be a director, like those are kind of like more niche things that you sort of have to work up to. A point I want to make about being in film. Being in film is recreating life. So you know what life needs? Life needs electricians. It needs plumbers. It needs landscapers. It needs people who can paint a house. It needs people who know how to, run a fog machine. It is every aspect of life is recreated on a film set. A film set needs a person who knows how to get good snacks for cheap. Yeah. You know, like there are so many realms that need to be represented on set. It really is like the circus is coming to town, right? Like we are 100%. A self-serving, self-efficient little tiny town that pops up in a location. Great. You got your brush. And we are able to recreate life and make ourselves comfortable in a temporary way and then bust it all down and move. So like they need like skilled drivers. They need people who are good mechanics. Like they need everybody. So like any job is a job that can get you onto a film set, not just like the creative, prestigious ones. And like, for example, like I went back to my high school film studies class, which was just like a class where we like watched films, were able to break them down. We had to like kind of pretend like we were movie critics and watch a movie, make a critique about it. And I went back to that class as a college student and I played a job with them, or actually I guess as a full career person at that point. And I played a murder mystery game with them called Who Killed the Production. And it was like, and the concept was like, when we first went around, I said, what do you want to do in the film industry? Nice. Oh, look at that beautiful palette. Look at that beautiful palette. Yes, honey. Oh, we love to see it. But the initially everybody in the class said writer, director, or actor. When I said, what role would you want to have on set? Yeah. And then I went through and I said, you all are the grip department. You all are the camera department. You all are the actors. You are wardrobe. You are the direction team. And we went through this whole song and dance and we said, okay, who was it that actually killed the production? Which department is responsible for things going off the rails, right? And by the end of it, when I asked everybody, what do you want to do? They all went, I want to be a grip. I want to be an electric. I want to be a composer. I want to be a this, not realizing that there were other options. So film is expansive in terms of what the jobs that are necessary to be on a film set. And you get the opportunities to do other things based on who knows that you did a good job on the previous thing.
Absolutely.
So really fast, Anna, let's start at the top of the makeup tutorial. We're all unwrapped now. Why don't you walk us through what you had me pick up? I'll show it off to the camera and tell me, kind of give them an idea of what they're going to be using these tools for. And then you can start, directing me up step by step.
So Danny specifically said that it would maybe be funny to show you how to be a little spooky emo goth boy. Because that is so not necessarily who you are.
Are you sure he didn't use the term edgelord?
He did not use the term edgelord. No, he said it would be really funny to see Joel go a little bit goth. And I completely agree. Also, I'm feeling like you would serve in that. So we are going to be doing something really basic. It is going to be with a liner, an eyeliner, just a plain black stick eyeliner. I prefer the ones that aren't things that you have to sharpen, just because there's a different, not an additional tool. There's also going to be a tiny, teeny little angled liner brush. Let me get my hand up behind there so you can kind of see that. Something firm like this. A brush is really important in terms of the density of the fibers that are in it, the shortness or the stiffness of them, how tightly they're packed in there. That will all depend on what it is able to do, or what it is able to do is completely dependent on what the bristles look like. And then I also had you get an eyeshadow palette, just something that had a dark color in it. Like it could have been black, it could have been dark brown, it could have been gray. So you got that beautiful e.l.f. palette. We'll probably mostly be using the black in there. Mine that I have is just like a knockoff of a really crazy palette. There's a knockoff of the Floribunda palette. So I'll probably use like that black right there. Okay. And I'm just going to walk you through just like putting on eyeliner, blending it out, and then doing a little bit of a kind of stylized eyebrow, like something like a very like emo-ish kind of eyebrow. So the very first thing I want you to do, I want you to take your wind-up pencil. And I want you to test it on the back of your hand. So like kind of get a sense, like just draw a line, kind of sketch in a line, and just get a sense of how it feels on your skin, how it applies, how pigmented it is.
Okay, well, I had the mechanical pencil problem of it already breaking, like the tip breaking.
So start with it pretty small. Like you don't have to have very much kind of like turtled out of there, right? In order to get like it's a pretty small little nub. And that's common. That happens all the time. So kind of getting a sense of like the pressure. Yeah. And then take your brush and you're just going to kind of sketch over that line and just get a sense for how well it blends out, how far it drags. Like I started with like a little, maybe a 1/2 inch line, and I can drag that out to be a pretty solid, like a pretty long line. Also, if I take my brush right now, I'm taking my like the skinny, like the narrow line part of my brush, and I'm using that along the line. If I take that and turn it to where the broad side of the brush is scooching across the line, it's going to give me a totally different effect. It's going to start to blend it out almost more like an eyeshadow, right? So we've gone from having like a tiny little line to kind of like a pool of color, right? Like a whole wide pool of color. And the cool thing about...
I'm probably going to have to get my brush skills down. That's sort of where I got...
Get a little closer to the camera.
Winston has never...
Nice. Yeah, I would say if anything, try...
been more involved in the podcast than he is right now. He's
like, all these tiny little things. Do you want me to be involved?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, try even just kind of like working the liner back and forth just in the same spot. Sometimes like the heat of your hand will help to kind of like melt the wax that's in the pencil, and you'll get a little bit more with what they call color payoff. So you'll start to get more and more color payoff. It is also nice.
More, and I'm going to see what I can do with that. You said just like kind of work it back and forth, you said?
Yep, exactly. But kind of in the same spot where it's sort of getting heated by the friction almost of you doing that. And you'll start to see a little bit more color payoff on there. Also, with these liners like this, a lot of the times I kind of use them like concentrated eyeshadows where you can put them down in a specific spot and then blend it out to where you want. Because the whole point of a liner like this is that it sets, right? Like it eventually it will get to a point where it won't budge, right? Like it's not going to keep moving. So your workability time is an element where, like, depending on how you write, look at that. That looks great. Yeah, and what we're going to do with this liner for the most part is we're going to be applying it in a smaller area and then blending it into a bigger area, right? So you want a kind of concentrated application with the liner itself, and then the brush is going to kind of do the work in terms of getting it kind of blended out, right? So where you're going to put this, and I'm going to bring my camera real close to my face, where you're going to be... So where you're putting this, like if you look at my eye straight on, right? And think of my eye like a clock, right? So 12, 3, 6, 9. When I'm applying makeup to look more flattering to my eye shape, I'm almost always going to be applying in the upper outer quadrant, right? So I'm trying to do what they call making it look snatched, right? I'm trying to snatch it up and kind of tilt my eye up, right? So you're going to really be applying, it's not a big solid line across the whole eye. Where you're really applying is like on the outer corner of the eye, like right there. So, and the nice thing about doing a pencil liner is that you don't have to get a precise line. It can be a very sketchy, choppy kind of line because you're going to go back in with your brush and blend it all out, right? So I want you to take your pencil and you're going to play around with the position of your hand, right? Like some people will hold their hand lower and kind of sketch it in like this. Some people will hold their hand up here like they're actually doing a pencil and they'll kind of sketch it on like that. So really like just play around and see where you feel like your hand is comfortable so that you can get the right amount of like pressure on there and then also still be able to like see what you're doing. And you're really focusing on that outer, upper part of your lash line, right? So the part that you're actually defining with it. And then you're going to end up doing a similar thing on the bottom. You're just not going in as far on the bottom. Like on the top, you could go from like outside of your lash line all the way into like maybe halfway across your lash line. On the lower part, which you don't necessarily need to do yet, you're really just going to keep it on like the outer quarter, say, of your lower lash line. I mean, hello.
Yeah, there we go.
Who is she? Who is she? Who invited her? All right, and so while that's
do the same thing on the other side.
So actually, now take one side first, yeah, because that eyeliner is going to start setting. So take your brush. And just like you did on your hand, kind of sketch over the shape that you just made to start kind of blending it together and being more, like less choppy, more consistent, right? Nice. You might also get different effects depending on where you choke up on the brush. Like right now, you've got your brush held very far out. So you're going to have a lot more like wiggle and looseness to it. If you choke up on the brush like you would with a pen, you're going to have a lot of control over like how firm, kind of where the bristles are wiggling, right? So you're going to just do a nice little light. And actually, I would say let's do all one eye first and then all the other eye so we can literally just see like side by side what it's doing.
Okay, I'm going to try to, I want it to be more of a, what is it called? Smiling with your eyes. So I want it to kind of like, I want it to kind of like shape up.
Absolutely. Okay, yeah, get it real snatched. That looks great. And actually just keep your eyes open and just look straight downward. Just like look at I mean, that already looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, this is like giving Johnny Depp era Crybaby.
There you go.
Yes, love it.
Well, I always think of myself if I was Johnny Depp with a beer problem, then more of a beer problem than a wine problem.
Well, it's very like, I mean, obviously like the Captain Jack Sparrow of the world really opened people up to the idea of what guy liner does, in a modern sense, where we were like, ooh, that looked good. That looked good. Yes, Joel, already conquering it. Yeah, and I would say go ahead and pick up your eyeliner again. And you're going to do the same type of thing, but you're not like where before you were kind of drawing out a line. You're kind of planting it underneath your like that outer lower quarter of your lash line and just kind of wiggling it back and forth just so you have a little doot up underneath there. And then
is that duty enough?
Yep, that's duty enough. Oh God, that looks great already. And then you're gonna do the same thing. You're just gonna take your little brush and you're just gonna kind of extend it where it's gonna blend out. You're not gonna have any hard edges. It's like what they talk about with the Mona Lisa. If you look really closely at the Mona Lisa, there's not a single hard edge. There's not a line on the Mona Lisa. All of it is gradients and texture and contrast and everything, but it's all very, very soft. That's the goal, is to go in and have it be sort of like a soft blended out oil painting where you can't really tell where the eyeliner starts or stops. It all just kind of is like smoke going away. Yes! And depending on how, like, if you went, you could go fully in, right? And start blending that out if you wanted to. That's going to start getting more and more into, like, the crow elements, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like you can really kind of go further in.
You're saying, like, go further in on the under, like, right
Yeah,
down
you
here?
can go further in on the under. I would say start it midway, like, where it would be, like, right underneath your pupil, and then go and join it up to what you've already got. Okay. Right? And you can sketch either direction. That's a big thing with makeup is, like, you have to think about the fact that when you started writing, you sat there and you wrote yes. over and over again until your hand knew the muscle memory of how to form an A. It's the same thing with makeup, where it's like you are having to compile a bunch of experiences to the point where you go, okay, this is the effect I wanted, right? Like, this is what I wanted it to look like. And I got that by using this particular kind of product in this particular kind of motion, placing it in this particular way, and, like, using this kind of tool to apply it. And that's something that people get really intimidated by. I'll tell people when they're trying to master a new makeup technique, never do it on a day where it matters. You don't experiment on Thanksgiving, right? You like never do it on a day where it matters. Don't do it on the day of your wedding. Don't do it on the day of prom. If anything, do it at night before you are about to wash your face and take your makeup off anyway. Yes. Yes. Hello. Yep. And then just give that a little blend. And I would say kind of blend it inward too, where it almost tapers, like kind of follow that bottom edge of your liner. Yeah. Yes, Joel! Oh my gosh. Natural. You're a natural. I mean, that's beautiful. And what's so wild is that when you sit back, the way that cameras work, like you were saying, like we live in a very camera-centric society. The way cameras work, I cannot tell that you have on eyeliner right now, right? Like on the one eye, it just looks more defined. That is the only thing. Now, if you're out and about in the world, I would be like, oh my gosh, that guy has like some really nice eyeliner on, you know? But when you're doing it for camera, that's what we have to do in film is we have to amp everything up to 150% to even get it to read correctly, right? Like on camera with lighting, et cetera, et cetera. So that's looking pretty damn good. If you were wanting to deepen it, you could go back on and like I like to think of doing like a smoky eye or any kind of liner as sort of like you're making a bullseye, right? Like the first layer that you do is like the biggest ring on the bullseye, and every subsequent layer is going to be smaller and nestled inside of that first layer. And that's going to increase depth. So if you wanted even more like specific smokiness, you could go in and like apply again in those exact same areas and just be more controlled on how you're blending it out. And you're going to get layers and layers and layers of depth where it'll start to get darker. So like even on my eyes right now, with like the one side having like a purple liner and the other side having the black, you can see that there's a difference. But even so, like it's not enough to really notice or like be noteworthy when we're in this kind of media. So you could keep layering from there if you wanted to. The next step, before you would do the other eye, would be taking that palette. And what we're going to do is you're going to dip with that same exact brush. You're going to dip into your darkest color. And again, we're going to experiment on our hand first. So we're going to just try and like kind of sketch a little soft line, right? Like you want it to have a bit of a hard edge on it because this is what we're going to do for our eyebrows.
Oh wow, this is so much more like there's like a lot more how should I say debris, like, you know, it's like
excess. So what you do is you do what's called loading your brush. So you kind of like tap into there, get it all loaded, and then you tap off the excess where you kind of hold it above your palette and just flick it a couple of times with your finger. And that's going to knock off a lot of the excess that would, if you just tried to go with all of that loaded on your brush, it would immediately do what's called falling out. So it'd have fallout and you just have a bunch of like black speckles everywhere.
Yeah. This ain't Fallout New Vegas.
No.
Okay. I think I got some Fallout. There, though.
A little bit. Yeah. And then now with no new product on the brush, just go on and just kind of run it back over those lines a couple of times. And you can do that kind of in like a quick painterly kind of sketchy way, and you'll see that it starts to blend out a little bit, right? Like some of that powder becomes a little less choppy. It becomes a little softer, just like the eyeliner pencil would.
Joel, can you show your work?
I feel like I have like a lot more control, or there's a lot more effect with this than the eyeliner makeup or the pencil. Like the pencil was, much more like kind of stubborn. This, I definitely see what you mean. It's like you could really go for a variety of effects. I mean, just sketching it out just a little bit, you can see the difference.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's all pros and cons, right? Like the pencil is also going to tend to wear longer without like a companion product that helps to kind of stick everything on. It's also really good for like getting that concentrated color without having to worry about fallout. So there are a lot of pros and cons in terms of like the usability versus the longevity versus the ease of application. And so I'll show you what we're going to do here. We're going to create a little bit of a dramatic eyebrow, and the idea is that you are going to trace along the actual existing line, the bottom line of your eyebrow. So let me get kind of close here. Actually, I'm going to need a mirror. Let me see here. So I'm just tracing along the bottom line of my eyebrow.
Oh, I see that.
Like so. And then I'm feathering. So I've gone along with like the skinny part of my brush. I've gone along the brow, and then I'm taking that and feathering it up through the rest of my eyebrow so that it's filled in. So that bottom line is really, really distinct. And I'll do it even more intense for the camera so that you can see it.
I'm sure this is, this is kind of how, like, for men who are like balding, this is like what that hairspray does, where they puts down like a black underneath their hair, so it looks full or filled in.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Experience with that.
Well, and I'm pressing it hard enough where it is the bristles of the brush are making contact with my skin underneath the hair. So it's not just me coloring in the hair. I'm also coloring the skin underneath it. Yes, exactly. So you're going to start there, and you can already see on mine how, again, the shape doesn't really change on me, but you can definitely tell that one side has more definition than the other.
Okay, let me see what I can do here.
I believe in you.
I might have overloaded my brush. We'll see.
I think it looks great already. I'm super into this.
Yes, Joel. I'm so proud of you. Also, I feel like your dexterity modifier is pretty good. You've got some good brush control.
I've always felt like I have a lot of finesse for a bigger guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's very similar. Like, again, it's like writing. It's like it's the same kind of muscle memory and like finite tool ability. But it's also like being able to understand pressure, right? Like understand like how much or how little pressure you're applying. Have the kind of physical intelligence to know how different it will be sliding along versus feathering through, right? Those are very, very different things. And they're small differences that make, oh my God, look at that.
There you go.
Literally take what's left on your brush and just scooch it over your facial hair on one side. Don't even touch the skin underneath. Yeah, like just kind of like paint it on top of your facial hair. Just to kind of marry everything together. Get them all going to the same party.
Mm-hmm. Not sure if this is how much of a fact you guys can tell me, but
okay, maybe load a little bit on your brush and try again. And you could even do the same kind of thing in opposite, where the hard line is on the top, and you kind of like scoot along the top of your facial hair, and then feather down through the facial hair, and that'll definitely give a Captain Jack Sparrow realness.
There is one aspect of this. Because
yes,
it definitely feels fuller because I have like, I don't know, like these little hairs that are like almost like my mustache wants to go ooh and just droop down a little, but those parts don't fill in, or at least they haven't recently. So this can allow me to fill in that like little droop down, which is the effect I want. That gives it more of a shaggy dog quality versus a cop quality. Okay, so
and there's so many products you can do that with. So if you wanted to go even more gothy, A really popular gothy vibe is to take the eyebrow and kind of extend it down the nose, which sounds kind of crazy, but I'm going to show you. So basically I'm painting in like a wedge almost on the edge of my eyebrow. And like squaring off. Yeah, it's very like and really what it's doing is it's giving you nose contour a little bit. Like it's making the bridge of your nose on either side be more pronounced and obvious. And so that's the type of thing where you really want to make sure there's not a lot of debris or excess on the brush. You really want to make sure you can tap it out. But you're really just kind of following that line and intensifying it as much as you want to. And it can be as steep or as shallow as you want it to be. But that's a very gothy kind of look. And I mean, and it looks so much more intense in person than it does like when I'm looking in the camera. Like in camera, that still looks reasonably normal. Like in terms of like what I can see from the tiny little window on OBS. But it is, or on Discord, but it's... it has an effect, right? Like it all kind of shapes the face, which is exactly what people like drag performers do, right? Like they are able to take their given bone structure and entirely change it, or at least the way that people perceive it, simply by the way that they apply highlight and shadow and definition to it, right? So the difference between a blended area of color and a distinct line of color are really the world in which they play, where they can have this extremely transformative look. But we can take all of those same principles and dumb them down and, you know, take the saturation and contrast bar and take it all the way down, you know, all the way to the bottom, and have, Joel, oh my God, and have these beautiful different variations of effects, right?
Oh no, another freeze.
Yeah, give us a one side, other side.
Okay, there we go.
Give us hey Joel, give us a one side, other side comparison.
Okay, let's see. So here's, whoops, there we go.
Yep. Love it.
Plain Joel.
Hello.
Goth Joel. Wow.
Prince of Darkness. He is the Prince of Darkness. Also very, like, this is going
Where's
very,
my steak?
Early. Yeah, where's my steak? Very, like, early 2000s, like, high school heartthrob kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Look at you. And again, it's so wild because when I'm looking at the small version, this could still be a normal person how they normally look, right? Like it's not a crazy amount, but it's so different from one side to the other. And specifically, the eye that is made up looks physically bigger than the other eye. Like when we're looking at it, it's because you have expanded the definition of what is the edge of your eye, right? So when you have no makeup on, the edge of your eye is just where your eyelids are, right? Mm-hmm. When you do have makeup on, it's where the end of the makeup is. Oh, excuse me. Whew.
That's all right.
Oh God, it got away. I hate that.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah, well, so it's all about just changing definition.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, if this is basically what I could do to one side, I'm going to start working on the other side and see if I can kind of match it, and we could just keep talking if you have time, for sure. Though Danny, since I might be a little,
you stay focused on that. Yeah.
You might want to take over the show, and potentially when it's time to wrap up, if you could take care of the finals.
Okay.
So just a reminder, it's starting with the upper eye.
Upper outer quadrant.
Lower.
Mm-hmm. And then
I do that. And then I can do the rest there. Okay. So
Exactamundo. Yeah, upper, and then blend it out with the brush, and then lower, and then blend that out with the brush. And then use the brush with the powder shadow to do your brows, and then to finesse the stash.
Also, this is making me appreciate, I've always wondered why the iPhone camera always like reverses, and I'm like kind of annoyed by it, but now I understand, because women, they probably made it for women to do mirror stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
It's very useful.
Very cool.
Very useful. Yeah.
Well, I know that you have a hard out here that we're coming up on.
I could say for like another 5-10.
Okay, perfect. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover? I'm really interested in your husband's drag journey. You want to tell us a little bit about how he got into that and where he performs and how often people are...
He is what we call a look queen. So it's all about doing, turning really cool looks, doing photo shoots, posting on Instagram. His Instagram is at Sarah Vignette. It's _ SARAVIGNETTE _ and so the idea is that it's serving it, like he's like serving it, right? But it's Sarah Vignette.
I love that.
And it was a lot. I mean, obviously, like me doing makeup, even when I was learning to do makeup up in Vancouver, there were times where I really wanted to practice things. And he was like, well, you can practice whatever on me. Like, I don't care. And so we would turn him into Darth Maul and, all these crazy things. But I'd also practice beauty makeup and hairstyling. I did these big long dread extensions on him several times. And so he's always been really into costuming and different looks and taking on characters. And we really, a big part of it was obviously RuPaul's Drag Race. That's like the great awakening for so many people of going like, those performers feel so good. You can tell they feel so good up on stage. I want to feel like that too. And thankfully we've got a really active, very welcoming drag community in Austin. And so really we mostly just go out, like we'll get dressed up, we'll go out, we'll go to drag brunches. I desperately want him to perform this year. Like in 2024, I'm like, I want you up on stage, lip syncing the house down, like turning the look, serving. And he's like, I need to learn how to dance. Like he's like very like aware of being like a good poser and good model, but he's like, I need like performance elements, right? So yeah, right now it's mostly Instagram. I do very much hope this year to get him in front of an audience and actually like performing and lip syncing. We did do one of our favorite looks. Let me show you. This is a modern day Medusa.
Oh my goodness, that's beautiful.
That I made, and we did a bunch of really great photo shoots with, but it was all just a green wig. These are different hair rollers, flexible hair rollers, and then some of them are actually braided out of the hair of the, that's all just hair. That's and so braiding cool. And teasing and put rhinestones on for all of the eyes and stuff. So yeah, I love it. It's such like a big, again, like sort of a low stakes way to do really crazy looks that don't have to be replicated perfectly over and over again, which is what you would have to
Anna,
do.
this might be a good time for me to come in and say, if a person who's applying makeup might feel as though they applied too much and want to bring it back a little, is that where the makeup wipes come in? And
absolutely. And one of the things that you want to be aware of with the wipes is it's not like a baby wipe or like you're wiping like ketchup off of a counter. You want to be aware of like, let me show you. I don't have a wipe in here, but like, so like a towel. So when I use my wipe, I'm going to hold it really tight along my finger. And I'm just using like the edge to clean it up. And that's a very valid way of applying makeup. Like people will kind of do this like spray and pray kind of version of makeup where it's you apply a lot and then you shape it with your remover. And that's super, super common. So you can literally take that and just like scoot it along like in a straight line sort of along where you've applied, and that's going to clean up and it's going to snatch. Like you're going to see that it'll give you like a really, really snatched look.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah, that's looking way better.
Yes,
Joel.
Henny.
I think that eye even looks better than the first one.
Yeah,
well,
it's more. It's definitely more pigmented.
I put down more. All right, so I think that's the eye, and now I need to do the brow.
The brow.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Let me work
Do
on
you
that.
know who Maddie Morphosis is, Anna?
Love Maddie Morphosis. Yes.
I know he's great.
Love.
That's cool that there's actually some heterosexual drag queens popping up, and he's super funny. Have you watched the Give It To Me Straight web series?
No, I haven't.
Oh yeah, he's very funny. So I would.
Okay, is that all on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
love.
Yeah,
I will definitely watch. Yeah, I mean, I just feel so strongly that everybody should have access to feeling great, like no matter their gender and no matter what that expression is. And makeup is such a huge part of that has been taken from half of the population for like really not that long. Like 100 years, maybe 100, 200 years. Like it's not been that all sorts of people wore makeup for all sorts of reasons throughout history forever. Right. And for some reason it's been given this like branding of like a frivolous, unnecessary thing, and I just could not disagree more. My husband has this beautiful drag journey. The thing actually that I'm going to be going and doing is I teach, I'm the professor of makeup design at St. Edward's.
Oh, wow.
And so I've got a makeup design class that I teach where we talk, I mean, like, obviously about actual applications of makeup, but like one of my lectures I gave was called The Anthropology of Appearance. So it's
that's cool.
It is one of my favorite things that I've ever worked on. I definitely want to make like a series or a digital course or something like that for it, because it's just talking about like portraiture, how people are portrayed in media throughout history, and what it is that we can discern about a specific culture's beauty standards based on the portraiture that they left behind. So everything from sculptures, wooden, stone or wooden sculptures, Greek and Roman sculptures, the invention of the printing press, the invention of, paint lacquer, even like the ability to paint a painting and lacquer it so that it could go to other places and be displayed. And people in, Romania could see what people in France looked like, those different leaps forward in technology and being able to share design influences are so huge in shaping what we all perceive to be as like beauty and like a beauty standard of the day. So actually today we're going to be going and talking about bones. I've got to give a lecture about facial structure, facial anatomy, and how most of the things that we're doing when we are shaping a face, like drag is a great example of it, is we are using highlight and shadow to transform what is already naturally there, but it's all based on what is there, right? Like we have to know what is there, where your cheekbone is, where the hollow of your eye is, in order to be able to shape it and change it to be perceived differently.
I love that.
So yeah, I'm doing that. I've got also a movie coming out that I worked on with Dennis Quaid and Jay Hernandez. It's a feel-good sports movie called The Long Game. It's about a group of Mexican-American golfers in the 1950s. Really, really good, beautiful movie. Won the Audience Choice Awards at South by when it premiered last year. So that's coming out on April 12th nationwide in theaters. And then my other big thing that I hopefully is coming out this year, we still don't have official word on it, is the YouTuber Markiplier, Mark Fishbach, his game called Iron Lung, or his movie called Iron Lung, based on a video game all of the same name. And it was amazing. The thing that I can say, that I'm allowed to say that he has already said, is that we believe we have the record for the most gallons of blood ever used on a movie.
Wow.
In the game, the very beginning of the game, it is set up that you are on an alien moon in an ocean of blood.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, wow.
So literally,
I was going to say, you
got to
compete against
blood.
The Shining. We're talking more blood than The Shining.
The Shining is my favorite movie of all time. And when I read the script, I started crying because I was like so excited to have our Shining moment, to have like our literal Shining moment. And when we were sourcing the blood, they had to be like, so is the actor going in the blood? And I'm like, oh girl, he's swimming in it. Like we need so much blood, like so much blood. So that trailer is up on YouTube. Just type in Iron Lung trailer and that'll come up. And that's TBD on when that will be released. But it is very exciting, and I got to do some really, really fun stuff for it.
How much blood did you end up using?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say.
Okay, we'll have you back after it comes out.
We'll just say the word thousands.
Oh my God.
I'm not going to specify the unit of measurement. Digits. Thousands. Yeah, quadruple digits of blood. Very cool. It was very exciting. That was the day the blood got delivered, it was like we were all like kids in a candy store. We were just like, semi trucks full of blood, like showing up. Yeah. It was amazing.
Or vampires at an orphanage. It was
very cool. We filmed it out at Troublemaker Studios, Robert Rodriguez's studio, nice. And we just got to kind of take over that space for 3 months. And it was like we set up an Old West town. Like we'd literally just moved in, set up this Old West town, and we just had a single location crazy shoot for 3 months. So, yeah.
And who directed that one?
Mark
did?
Mark Fishbach. Yeah, he wrote it, directed it, executive produced it. He's editing it. Like that's what I'm saying with that YouTuber mentality of like, I am prepared to do it myself and I want to see it through from concept to credits. And that's how I feel about my makeup, right? Like I don't want to be a piece of the makeup. I want to be involved in all of it. You know, that's where my passion lays.
Well, you know that feeling well. We are used to wearing a lot of hats, and it's the only way we like to do it. So,
I mean, who would go through life wearing one hat?
Yeah.
That sounds so boring. You have to have multiple hats, you know?
You got to have multiple hats. Well,
Joel, you are just killing it.
Yeah, you're looking.
I think I might have gone a little far, but I mean, you know, but that's the thing. You can either like maximize or minimize the situation. And let me see if I can.
Well, and as you go to remove, have fun with the removal. Like literally go in and try to change the shape of it based on how you're removing. Change the shape of your eyebrow, narrow it out. Like you can have so many different variables to getting your final look. And again, with the whole like muscle memory element, going in now that you have had this experience, the next time that you want to do this, you are going to have some information about like, I know that this pencil is harder to use than my powder, right? Like you can have all of these different elements that are going to change up what your finished result is. That looks great.
Yeah, you're giving Raccoon Cultist, so I'm going to request that you wear this for our second podcast this afternoon.
I was exactly going to suggest that I just keep this on for the next episode.
Yeah, I love it.
I love that.
No explanation. No
explanation. At the next episode, if I remember correctly, we're going to be releasing the one we're recording later today.
First. So there'll be no explanation. And
hilarious.
Let's just see how long we can go into that episode without referencing it or explaining.
Or without somebody being like, "Are you?" Like, are you?
I'll just completely act like it's normal. Like this is just
yeah. This is my look. This is who I am. This is who I've always been. Deal with it.
Yeah. My theory is we'll get called out. We'll get called out at the beginning of the episode. My theory before we even start recording.
Maybe not.
So literally, but stay further back at first. Like stay further back, stay further away, and literally, I bet it's gonna be like, wow, the contrast is like really increased on the webcam today. Like, you look so broody and like intense.
Should I read some poetry to you?
Yeah. Also, what's crazy about eyebrows and defining eyebrows is that it highlights your emotions, right? Like you can, like the eyebrows are the exclamation point of the face, right? So like you can tell so much more what people are doing and how they are feeling based on their eyebrows. And when your eyebrows are more defined, like your emotions are more defined.
Can we get a Kubrick gaze?
Like that?
Yeah, a little lower.
Yeah, lower that chin. There we
There
go.
you go. That's it.
Swarthy.
I was going to say, now I'm starting to think with what you had to say about emotions, I'm almost starting to think that maybe women started applying makeup to highlight, how they were feeling to men, because us men were pretty obnoxiously dumb about that sort of thing. So maybe they were just like, okay, if I really darken my eyebrows, he's going to know how angry I am with him.
Well, it's the same thing, like if you cover your eyebrows, like if you just like hold your fingers up over your eyebrows, like the amount of alienness that automatically happens because you don't have, like, if somebody has shaven eyebrows, it's impossible to tell. Like that's me being angry, right? That's me being happy. Angry,
very
happy.
Extraterrestrial.
Like it's very extraterrestrial, and you can't really tell how somebody is feeling because their main indicators are gone.
Yeah. Well, this has been quite enlightening, and I can't wait to play around with this and try to get a more subtle, like, just who's that guy look going, so I can go out and about and just like, just get, just a little bit sharper features. But no, this more extreme. What did you say, goth boy? Specifically this part, the emo part where we brought the eyebrow down all the way to the nose ridge, which has a great look. It kind of gives me animalistic vibes. Like I feel like if I wanted to dress as the beast, that would be like the key indicator of the makeup or like a werewolf or something. I would want to do that.
Well, and trying it out with like those lighter colors you've got in there too, like doing a brown, doing just the brown eyeshadow. Don't even use the eyeliner at all. Try doing the exact same shapes in just brown, and see how that.
Remember, fellas, that was just one of these many colors.
Just one. Yeah,
and that's a product tie-in with the Will Ferrell movie Elf, correct?
Yeah.
Is that how that?
Oh no!
It stands for eyes, lips, face.
Okay.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Yeah. But I do think we're running up against the, the time limit here, so we should probably be seeing Anna off. I think the first and foremost seeing Anna off. Thank you, Danny. I think first and foremost, I usually like. We didn't do it earlier, but Danny, what were some key takeaways from Anna's conversation that you and what are some things you'd like to have her back on the show to talk more about?
Oh man, so much to talk about. I had one question I wanted to ask, which we ran out of time for, but I think there's a lot to dive into with just the kind of characters you can inhabit and how makeup can help you like better define the different aspects of your personality. So I'd love to talk to her more about that in the future, but I touched on it earlier. I'm going to just reiterate it because I do think it's super powerful. When you're trying to make it in the world, oftentimes it's helpful to actually be able to make something to show people. So try to find a way to have tangible evidence that you are capable of doing what you say you're capable of. And it's just going to be that much easier to convince other people to support you, especially if you need financial support to do your endeavors. So highly, highly recommend putting together a tangible portfolio or creating a proof of concept that people can interact with.
Yeah. I would say my big takeaway is if you want to do something professionally, if you want to be respected, what was the Tom Builder? Be
Tom Builder. You want them to be glad that Tom Builder is in charge. You want them to be glad that you're in charge.
Yes.
Exactly. That goes all the way back like forever and ever. Like be a person that people are happy to see in your position. That's going to get you pretty far.
I think that a great quote comes to mind. I think that's perfect for this episode. It comes from a fellow game designer, Seppi. Joel, do you know what it is?
Seppi Senpai.
Yep. What is it? What's the quote?
Oh, fashion is power?
Fashion is power. There we go.
Fashion is power.
Yeah, you ingrained that thoroughly. I can't wait we need to have Seppi on the show. I can't wait to talk to him again.
Yeah, and then Anna added, beauty is effort.
Beauty is effort.
Beauty is effort. Yeah. And I'm glad I took the effort
and when you're thinking about doing a hard thing, there's a quote that I love from a project I worked on with Mark, In Space with Markiplier on YouTube. It's a choose your own adventure. And it is when thinking in infinites, unlikely, what was it? No, it's when thinking in infinites, impossible is just likely waiting for its turn.
Yep.
So when you are thinking in endless possibilities, everything is eventually likely.
Yeah.
I've never heard it articulated so well. I think I've had a thought similar to that, but I've never heard it put so succinctly. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah.
You hear that, Mark? I'm coming for all of your things, Mark.
Do it. And y'all better watch. Like, In Space with Markiplier is one of the coolest pieces of media. It is like 3 movies worth of content. We filmed like 300 individual scenes, and they're all branching arcs of different storylines that go different ways. It's like a 2-parter, too. There's In Space
Will
with
loves
Markiplier
that.
1. It's amazing. It's so good. And I got to make a million different characters. There's aliens, there's zombies, there's everything in it.
Danny.
This has everything.
Oh my God. We talked about doing some reaction content in the past, a live play of us watching this and reacting and choosing our adventure. That could be an episode or something right there. But we can sit here and talk for hours. We are going to talk for hours more with Anna. You have been one of the best guests that we've had on the show. I'm so excited to talk to you more, and I really want for us to roll up characters and play your one shot. When you're ready to show it off, you have a platform to play it for the people. And trust me, you don't have to worry. You got Himbo Paladin coming for sure to the one shot. So and Danny, I don't know. Well, Danny will figure something out day of probably. All right.
I love it. Oh, thank y'all so much. Thank you so much. This is so fun. You made this feel very accomplishable and doable and unintimidating. I really appreciate it because it has been very, very intimidating to think about getting through all this tech and everything. So I really, really appreciate you guys. I'm so impressed. Really good job.
Well, you're set up now, so you're going to be able to do this like other people's podcast. You now will have your feet wet. You're going to be able to do it. I think you will.
Yeah.
We're going to be seeing you everywhere soon enough. All right. Well, really quick, let me just do the classic stuff you have to say if you're a podcast on YouTube, and that is, please, if you've enjoyed this conversation, subscribe to our channel. We love having fun people on. We have some fun episodes. If you wanted to see a pro-level Magic player making his way to the World Tour, or the Pro Tour, I should say, you can go back and watch that episode, and we have plenty more where that came from. If you're into games, if you're into design, if you're into aesthetics, please choose the Megamoth Studios Super Secret Show by first liking us. All right, you already did that. You got the confetti. Now, just a little bit over, subscribe. You got it. But what you want hot and fresh podcast. You don't want cold podcast. You want hot and fresh. So you're going to ring that bell. Ring it right now, because then ring-a-ding-ding, you'll get it when it's right out of the oven. Right when Will's done editing and uploading, you're going to get the notification so you can watch it then and there. And we really, really appreciate that. If you're not a YouTube podcast listener, I don't know where you're listening to right now, but you can go to Apple Podcasts. You can go to Pocket Cast. You can go to Spotify. Megamoth Studios Super Secret Show. If you have friends who don't like using their eyes but love using their ears, you can find us there.
Preach, brother, preach.
Yeah, I'm trying to up my mic skills. I have some plans in the near future, and I want to be able to really own the microphone. Okay, I think that's all I have to say on that. We already did something random, Danny. Well, Anna, one last question, just so everybody can be sure that they've heard it. You know, they hear it again. Where do you want to be found? Where can people find all of your wonderful things?
I wish to be unknown, like a fairy. No, I'm Anna the Artiste, artist with an E at the end, because I'm not just an artist, I'm an artiste. So I'm Anna the Artiste on Instagram, on TikTok. I do have a YouTube channel. I have uploaded almost nothing to it, but I hope to. Now that I know that OBS is a possibility, I do hope to.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So
all right.
Instagram,
Thank y'all so
Instagram
much.
is the main one. Are you on TikTok?
Instagram's the main one so far. I do have a lot on TikTok. I'm just not very consistent on there. Consistency is just not my bag, baby. Like, I'm just like, it's not what I'm into. But I'm going to try to get better at it. I'm going to try to form some habits.
Okay. Anyways, okay, that is awesome, Anna. Danny, do you have any parting words for the show?
No. I think a lot has been said, and a lot has been applied to your face. And I am super appreciative of Anna coming to show us how to level up Joel's face. This has been amazing to watch.
Yeah, the Spotify and Apple podcast listeners will have a real interesting 20 minutes or so there, where there's just a lot of visual words happening and not a whole lot of understanding.
That's why they need to come to the YouTube.
That's why they need to come to YouTube.
This is a YouTube episode. We are a YouTube podcast. This is a YouTube episode. You do yourself a favor and find us on YouTube. But if you refuse to YouTube a podcast, I'm sure we're going to post pictures of the process on our Instagram at Megamoth Studios on Instagram. You will probably see screenshots and selfies that I'm going to take right after this episode's done, so you can see what the beautiful snatching of my face.
And there should be stills on America's Most Wanted as well. So.
Oh my God.
All right, Danny, that's enough from you. All right.
Thank y'all so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Danny. So this has been Anna. This has been Danny. I have been Joel, reminding you that you must start somewhere, so why not here? Thanks for watching. Theme music by James Holden. Produced and edited by William Wymore.
Amazing, y'all. Oh my God. Y'all are great.